Nobody, not even myself, would have bet a pound on us winning today. Arsenal were in incredible form. While we couldn't beat Nottingham Forest at home or West Ham away, we had just lost 5-1 on aggregate to Real Madrid, even though we played 65 minutes with a man advantage. Very few people believed. Really, very few. But the players proved it again. The experienced ones, and especially the new signings. Pep Guardiola admitted it himself after the Arsenal versus Manchester City final. And that's the thing about Pep, when he sounds humble, calm, even a little bit disarming, he somehow becomes even more dangerous than the version of him people were starting to doubt. Because while the noise around him gets louder, he just keeps stacking trophies. Pep Guardiola has now quietly reached 40 trophies as a manager after Manchester City's win over Arsenal in the Carabao Cup final. On paper, it's just another cup, another line added to an already ridiculous resume. But if you zoom out for a second, it's not just a number, it's a reminder, whether you like him or not, Pep is operating at a level that the rest of football is still trying to catch up to. What makes it even more interesting is the context. This wasn't a perfect Manchester City. They had just been knocked out of the Champions League. Their form was shaky. Pep himself admitted he didn't even believe in the win. Meanwhile, Arsenal were flying, carrying the aura of a team ready to take everything. And then, City won. Not in a flashy, overwhelming way. Not in a we dominate you for 90 minutes kind of performance. Just cold, calculated, and brutally efficient. The kind of win that doesn't scream, but whispers. This is what control looks like. This is what Pep Guardiola looks like when it matters. And that's exactly the part people love to ignore. It's always about the money, the squad, the expensive players. But if it were that simple, then why isn't everyone doing what Pep does? Why don't all rich clubs just hire a coach, spend a big, and win everything? Barcelona, Bayern Munich, Manchester City. 3 completely different environments, 3 different football cultures, 3 different squads. And yet the outcome is always the same. Trophies. Consistently. Relentlessly. 14 at Barcelona. 7 at Bayern. 19 and counting at City. That's not luck. That's not coincidence. That's a system. A philosophy that has been refined, adapted, and reapplied across time. Pep didn't just bring an idea across Europe. He brought a way of thinking about football. And more importantly, he kept evolving it. From tiki-taka at Barcelona, to extreme spatial control at Bayern, to a more flexible, sometimes even pragmatic Manchester City that still revolves around control at its core. And ironically, that's exactly why he irritates so many people. Because Pep doesn't just win, he normalizes winning. When he wins, it's expected. When he loses, it's a crisis. There's no middle ground, no patience, no benefit of the doubt. He's a victim of the standards he created himself. But take a step back and look at those 40 trophies properly. In the entire history of football, only Sir Alex Ferguson sits above him, with 49 trophies built over nearly 4 decades. Pep has reached 40 in less than half that time. The speed, the consistency, and the ability to sustain excellence at this level are extremely rare. And let's be honest, he's doing it in the most unforgiving era football has ever seen. Every decision analyzed, every failure amplified, every weakness targeted. You can dislike his style. You can argue he benefits from financial power. You can say his Champions League record isn't perfect compared to some legends. But there's one thing you can't logically argue. You don't win 40 trophies just because you have money. You don't dominate 3 different countries just because you're lucky. And maybe the most unsettling thing about Pep isn't what he has already achieved. It's the fact that he keeps reinventing himself. Doubt him, and he adjusts. Knock him out, and he comes back. Question his future, and he wins again. So the real conversation isn't whether Pep Guardiola is great. It's whether we've become so used to his greatness that we've stopped appreciating it. You don't have to like Pep Guardiola, but 40 trophies, that's not up for debate. If you talk about Pep Guardiola and stop at 40 trophies, you're actually missing the point, because the real story isn't the silverware. It's this: Pep isn't just someone who wins titles. He's someone who has forced modern football to rethink how the game is played. Look at the way teams build from the back now. Fullbacks stepping into midfield. Entire systems structured around zones, spacing, and positional discipline. That didn't just happen overnight. That's the ripple effect of an idea Pep carried across Europe. From Barcelona to Bayern Munich to Manchester City. He didn't invent everything, but he turned those ideas into a standard. From tiki-taka at Barca to extreme spatial control at Bayern to a more flexible, sometimes pragmatic City side that still revolves around control at its core. And more importantly, he forced everyone else to react. Because when a coach reaches that level, people don't just copy you. They spend just as much time trying to figure out how to stop you. That's when you know you've changed the game. But here's the twist. The more Pep succeeds at that, the more people seem to turn against him. And that's where it gets interesting. Pep is the kind of coach whose victories are treated as routine, but whose defeats are treated like evidence of failure. When he wins, it's of course. Look at his squad. When he dominates, it's well, he spends more than everyone else. But the moment he loses a game, or gets knocked out of the Champions League, suddenly it becomes Pep has a problem. The standard applied to him has never really been fair. It's set at a level that borders on absurd. Even this season tells the same story. City were knocked out by Real Madrid. Their form dipped. Arsenal pulled ahead in the Premier League. Doubts started creeping in. And then Pep walks into a cup final that, by his own admission, very few people believed he would win. And then he wins it anyway. Another trophy. Another reminders. Another addition to a cabinet that frankly stopped making sense a long time ago. So when you zoom out, Pep Guardiola becomes a very clear contradiction. He's a figure that modern football studies, imitates, and at the same time desperately wants to beat. Respected, but also resented, admired, but also questioned. And yet, there's one thing that never really changes. No matter which side you're on, the trophy count keeps going up. At some point, you just have to accept a very simple truth. Pep Guardiola doesn't need to be liked. He just needs to keep winning. And he's been doing exactly that for nearly 2 decades. And if you're wondering why he belongs among the clearest icons of modern football, it's not just because of how much he's won. It's because of how he wins. A win rate north of 70%, over 2 goals per game, and above all, something that hasn't faded with time, an obsession with the work itself. Even if I started all over again, I wouldn't be able to reach these numbers. There have simply been too many games. Pep once admitted, that's not polite humility, that's self-awareness. And the irony is, the more he downplays it, the clearer it becomes just how far he's gone. Pep has evolved, and so has football. But one thing hasn't changed. He's always a step ahead. Guardiola doesn't just build teams. He builds ways of playing, from ball retention to spatial control, from structured build-up to positional discipline. So many things that now feel normal in modern football carry his fingerprints. And maybe the hardest thing he's done is this, turning what once looked like an idealistic philosophy into a system that consistently wins. He says he's been lucky to coach great players. That's true, but it's not the full story. There are periods where Pep wins with great players, others where he elevates them to a different level, and moments where he wins despite the noise, the doubt, and the pressure around him. That's the line between a great coach and someone who builds a legacy. If you trace his journey, the core elements are easy to spot. There's a style, but not stubbornness. He was shaped by Cruyff, but never confined by him. He's learned from everywhere, from pure tacticians to instinct-driven managers. And more importantly, he understands balance. Between system and emotion, between structure and personality, behind all of that sits something even more important, obsession. Pep doesn't treat football like a job. He lives inside it. From the days when he had no real footing as a coach to becoming one of the most successful managers in history, his internal drive hasn't really changed. That constant need to improve, to understand the game at a deeper level, is what keeps him moving. Which is why his biggest decisions are almost always bold ones. Clearing out dressing rooms at Barcelona, trusting a new generation, reshaping systems at Bayern and Manchester City. Pep has never been afraid to dismantle what already works. And that leads to the key point. Pep is not a coach who repeats formulas. He's a coach who evolves. Different teams, different phases, different contexts, and you get a different version of him every time. When control is needed, he controls. When directness is required, he adapts. When opponents figure him out, he finds another way forward. All of it is driven by an almost extreme standard of perfection. Pep doesn't stand still. He questions, adjusts, refines constantly. And that's why he's been able to stay at the top for so long in a game that punishes stagnation almost instantly. So when you zoom out, the story of Pep becomes quite simple. Yes, he's won a lot, but more importantly, he's changed how winning itself is understood. At Manchester City, he's already achieved everything there is to achieve. And still, he keeps going, still motivated, still obsessed, still pushing forward. Some people say Pep has made football boring, but in a strange way. That might be the biggest compliment of all, because only those who redefine the game can make everyone else uncomfortable. And that's why I don't think Pep is stopping at 40 trophies. If anything, he's entering another phase, a more calculated version of himself, a bit more street smart, a bit more ruthless in knockout football. He just got knocked out by Real Madrid, another master of that exact art. And what did he do next? He turned around and knocked out Arsenal, because experience isn't given, it's built. And when you combine elite tactical intelligence with real knockout experience, that's when it gets dangerous.